And so we'll be asking the table presenters, try to be brief. We know there's a lot to cover, but we're going to 13 tables. We want to give everybody a couple minutes. We also did want to note that any sites that we left off, school district, we need to update the maps with that, and any private parks that are open to the public, we'll also note those on future materials. So thank you for mentioning that. We'll make sure that gets on all of the maps in the future. So with that, we're going to start with table 12. Table 12, if you could introduce yourself, and then we'll get underway. So go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Gavin Scott, speaking on behalf of Table 12, and I'll speak as fast as I can while hopefully being comprehensible. So, enhanced play for all was one of the themes that came up at this table. The opportunity to do whatever you are passionate about, and the idea of having focuses for different parks. One of our members suggested, for example, a place where butterflies would naturally congregate, I guess because of the trees and things, so that was the butterfly place in the park. Another person at the table was really enthusiastic, as many people are, about ice skating, the opportunity for ice rinks as a popular growing sport, and the suggestion that I feel most strongly about is the idea of incorporating an element of whimsy and the unexpected in the park. So you get things like a pirate castle that kids can play in and use for their own imagination. Unexpected structures in parks. So that was one thing to enhance play for all. Rethinking the streets. For example, the median strip on San Vicente, making it a more usable space and easier of access. Pocket parks, particularly turning the area of 4th and 5th Street as a wonderful opportunity, 4th, 5th Street in Arizona, as that being a marvelous opportunity for a new park. And any streets that don't have through traffic, that using them as an opportunity for small new parks. Green infrastructure. One of our people really urged us to create places where kids could grow their own food on schoolyards or nearby schools, so that instead of having sugary snacks, they eat carrots they've grown themselves. And we all thought that was a good idea. Everybody wanted more trees, especially in schoolyards where there's too much asphalt and not enough greenery. And green cul-de-sacs wherever possible, with living walls, which everyone liked the idea of. We dealt with the issue of safety ambassadors at the park, and when new parks are developed, that they should be structured with safety in mind. More volunteers. We all felt that this was a great opportunity to incorporate especially older and retired people who'd like to donate some of their time to be in parks, to help them to be safe places, to guide kids so that they don't indulge in dangerous play, to report to the authorities if there are people misusing the parks, but also create a sense of community, because that gives old people a chance to actually contribute and make the parks better places to be. Also, emergency call boxes were suggested as a way of alerting the authorities if things go wrong. We all felt there was a great need to create new parkland, especially north of Montana, but specifically the airport park, the need for the community to come together and say, we must seize this opportunity to create a great park at the airport and get around the vested interests who don't want it to happen. And art. Incorporate more art, keep up the good work that Santa Monica has done with creating interesting art in parks, and just give those parks that special quality. Priorities: airport park, more neighborhood parks, building indoor facilities. Yes, there was an emphasis on some indoor facilities for gymnastics and indeed the ice rink concept as well. So we all really appreciated the opportunity to throw our ideas in, and hope this whole exercise is a great success. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Very well done. All right. Let's go right to this next table. Delia, right here. Let's take this one. We're going, table 11 is ready to go. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Well, we had a very lively discussion at our table, and I think that this little chart can actually summarize our conversation. But our highest priorities overall that were voiced here were to create new neighborhood parks. Really those that are in walking distance to our homes, that are easily accessible, that we don't spend more time getting to them than being at them. So that was a big part of it. The group really is supportive of transforming Airport into a park. Additionally, we really wanted to have enhanced play and unstructured opportunities, building out an urban forest, a place where kids could just really relax and have creative play. And then the opportunity, like bring back that old rec coordinator who brings out the games and activates the space and has opportunities for the kids to play. More playgrounds and these things. Oh, and Fifth and Arizona, like the other group, there's a opportunity there. And then ultimately, just want to reiterate that the big concern that everyone at the table really wanted to have addressed is how to access parks so that it doesn't take as much time to get there, okay, so that you can actually enjoy it.
All right, excellent, thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Well done. And moving right over to table 2.
We're table 10, actually.
10, sorry.
So we also had a lively discussion, and the biggest takeaways...
Closer, hold it closer.
The biggest takeaways are that we felt like access wasn't addressed in the emerging themes. But then within the other themes that were on the sheet, we felt like we wanted to specify multi-use facilities and fields, pop-up parks and small-scale parks, but keeping still the big parks like Airport Park the Airport Conversion Park and the freeway capping as a long-term goal. And then increasing the urban forest and canopy with landscaping, and particularly adding landscaping in the red zone curbs, and then lining the streets with fruit trees in that process. And then mobility and safety and connections to parks, planned group programs and education for seniors outside, not just inside our park facilities, and field trips, and then adding concessions and lightings to our parks to make them feel more safe and comfortable and for use at night. And then more gardens of all kinds, and to be an inclusive city, but our overall theme of our discussion was safety.
All right, very good, thank you. Thank you, table 10. So how about the one way back there in the corner? Yes, please. Okay.
Hi, our table, we summarized some of our highlights that we discussed. One was more park space that's accessible for all, and it must be inclusive. Something else that we spoke about was different parks with different functions. So we talked about the idea of having neighborhood versus regional parks. When we prioritize our cards, most of everyone at our table prioritized A. That was their number one, which was to create a large-scale park. We talked about models for the airport park. We talked about Central Park as a model. We also talked about Graham Park in downtown LA because of the various activities and events available there. Something else that we discussed was maximizing the functionality of current existing park space. We discussed the fact that Santa Monica is underparked. Underutilized inland beach space that could be used in added canopy and green space. And also we did have a big discussion around safety, understanding the importance of safety without creating an us versus them mentality, and we were particularly discussing the issue of homelessness. And then also adding additional security at the parks that we have.
Okay, once again, thank you. Very nice work. Moving on to our next table right here. Yes, please.
Hi, we were table 9, and we had a great discussion. I don't think we necessarily came to consensus on everything, but we had a lot of different viewpoints. And so in terms of safety, there was a lot of concern about homelessness and making sure that there's eyes on the park so people feel comfortable using those spaces, activating them with programming so that there's more people there. In terms of optimizing what we have, we had a lot of people who were interested in maintaining and programming the current spaces that we have in the community, making them, some of them being multifunctional or some of them being for a specific type of use. We had a little bit of a debate about that. We were looking at increasing shade opportunities along the beach, potentially with some temporary shade structures, to make it more appealing to those of us who don't want to get a lot of sun. We want to focus on fixing what we have, maintaining things. There was a discussion about the permitting system being challenging and making it, creating a barrier to use for residents, in particular aging residents who want to use the field space that we have. Adding additional classes and yoga into our parks. We wanted just more opportunities for people watching and just being able to sit and be part of a community and have that feeling. We also looked at creating connectivity, especially for those who are transit dependent, to be able to get to parks. People don't want to have to drive across the community. They want something that's walkable. We also talked about creating additional pocket parks, small neighborhood parks. There was a lot of discussion about the airport park. Some people at the table were interested in preserving the existing uses along Airport Avenue and maintaining that as a historical, cultural arts district. Other people were interested in capping the freeway. And we just want a lot more green, less hardscape, more greenery in our parks.
Right, okay, good, thank you, nice work. And again, don't forget to leave all your comment cards, the placemats. We're going to total all that up and make it available as a summary of today's workshop. Go ahead, sir.
Great, thank you. So we had a great discussion here at our table as well, and I've summarized some of our points for us. The first one was about the play experiences, and we discussed a lot about a variety of play experiences, whether they be more challenging or adventure play, as they mentioned over there. The ability for our youth to be creative with their minds. And mobile experiences too, moving experiences across the city in a mobile way. We also talked about the need for connectivity, and we talked heavily about biking opportunities and safety, and the parking of the bikes was also something that we talked about. In regards to the green space, we thought we don't have much left, but we need to optimize all of the green space that we have, the opportunities for that. And again, like I mentioned, safety came up numerous times throughout our discussion. It was probably our biggest theme of the day. Our group was in favor of both converting the airport and capping the 10 freeway. We thought that there was a need for more concessions in our public spaces so people could socialize and be together, and the need for more localized events. Again, the connectivity is important to us, and that we need to think big because this is a 20-year plan, so there should be no barriers holding us back. Thank you.
All right, good. Let's give a hand to that table for their contributions. Thank you. Moving on to table 7.
Hi. The first topic that came up at our table was homelessness at the parks, and it's not an easy topic, and there's no easy solutions, but it was the major concern. Also somewhat of crime. Now, not everybody at our table agreed that the airport park or the airport should be shut down, but it is an opportunity for more park space. Other opportunities for park space would be capping the freeway and 4th, 5th in Arizona. Someone at our table suggested, and we all kind of agreed, that when we do have open green spaces, some of it needs to be unstructured and unprogrammed and just a wild vegetative state. And this, can also be areas for butterflies, birds, bees, etc.
Hopefully that doesn't mean we're in a vegetative state, but okay.
Well, maybe it's to allow you to get into a vegetative state, yes.
Okay.
We also are concerned about getting some equal distribution of parks throughout the city. There are areas of the city that really don't have parks, and it's difficult in a built-out city, but any land that the city does own should be looked at for those purposes. A major concern amongst all of us was safe and easy access to the beach, which is our city's major big open space park, and from the mid-city area, it is really difficult to get down there on a bike. So some way of getting to the beach, and then even once you are there, it's great that the city has started to build some boardwalks out across the sand, but to create more of those for more access, easier access to the actual shoreline. And then also it seems that the volleyball courts have kind of spread out across that whole, they kind of almost create like a barrier reef to getting across the sand. So maybe a reorganization of those structurally so that you don't reduce the number of them, but create more open pathways to the beach. Then there was a desire for a balance of park activities. We definitely want more shades throughout the entire city and in the various parks. And that includes filling all of our empty tree wells. We have empty tree wells, over 2,000 of them throughout the city. Down at the beach, people have raised concerns. They want to know if we could get a dog park in down at the beach, maybe at the southern end. Also, perhaps expanding the bike path, making it, and I know the city is actually working on this, on the north side of the pier, separating bikes and pedestrians, having another path for that, especially with the scooters. Maybe they'll geofence themselves out, we hope. Then also, let's see, we kind of did all these. Also, the San Vicente Boulevard median could be landscaped a little better. People use it already as kind of a jogging, walking path, and maybe that needs to be maintained in a better way and streetscaped a little better to encourage more of that, and that would be more of the north end of our town. Overall, we want to expand the urban forests, create some large-scale parks. Again, 4th, 5th Arizona. And I think that pretty much covers what we had time for.
Very good. Excellent report. Thank you. Table 7, let's give them our thanks. And then moving on over here to table 6. Okay, we're going in any order here. That's fine.
Table 6. Thank you. When we're looking at all these, I know that we have our board here and everything, but on each one of the major topics, each one of the major topics, certainly safety should be in every one of those topics.
Right.
We definitely have a lot, everything started with that as a conversation and then went there from there. We also agree that more is more. So cap the freeway, airport park, but don't stop there. Don't wait for that magical day to come, because we should be in the process of continuing to try to acquire park space even now. We had the benefit of having a longtime member of the Parks and Rec Commission board here, and he mentioned the anecdote of Fisher Lumber. When we had the opportunity to buy it, we didn't, and then years later we bought it for more than it cost the first time around. We need to be acquiring land because the airport thing, we want it to happen. What if it doesn't happen? What if the cap the freeway never happens? We don't have any net new fields, and we need net new fields, net new parks, net new everything.
Okay, thank you.
So safety over, and then one of the big things throughout all of these topics was the danger that this city in particular has in overspending, over-planning, overbuilding something. Don't let the great be the enemy of the good. If every pocket park costs $5 to $10 million, we're not going to get a lot of pocket parks. If every, the Memorial Park thing, we're spending a ton of money to rebuild Memorial Park, but we're not getting net new fields, things like that. No net new tennis courts, no net new gym space. So that would be another cautionary tale. Would be like, don't let us overthink this. A dog park doesn't have to have public art. It could just be a dog park, for instance. No, I'm serious. We need more dog parks, right?
Dogs
any
are
other major themes?
pretty easy to please where that's
Okay, so
concerned.
those are some of our major themes. I know we're running out of time, but
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Table 6. Very good. Moving on. Yes.
Thanks. So here at our table, we talked about
Keep
a lot
it
of
close.
different things. So to summarize some of our ideas, we were in favor of the airport park idea and all the different opportunities that could go there. As far as the existing parks, we talked about the importance of having multiple uses. So not like the specialized different areas, but thinking about how can the existing areas have different uses, layering of uses, more amenities to be used by different people, different activities throughout the day. We also wanted to see a lot more greenery, a lot more trees, both in our parks and throughout the entire city, but also very aware of the intense water uses and needs for that. And so thinking about, how are we going to maintain our landscaping and our greenery, through smart water usage. We also talked about the importance of parks as gathering places and how that can be accomplished through having more food in the parks, food trucks, coffee shops, those are the things that bring people together. How can we incorporate more of those? And also thinking about the smaller activities. Things don't have to be always the large, once a year events, but what are the small activities, small events that can really activate those places? And also thinking about how to incorporate cozy gathering spaces for, in the existing parks, in newer parks as well. And throughout all of this, again, like some of the other groups mentioned, the cost has to be thought of. How can we do things more cost effectively? And then climate change as well. Throughout all of this, again, thinking about water usage, thinking about greens, and how can we use parks as a lesson, for people about climate change.
All right, good, thank you. Okay, moving on to our last four, the final four. Go ahead, sir.
So listening to every other group, we have a lot of similar key points, but to go over ours, more senior interaction, whether that's transportation, outdoor activities, such as lawn bowling, but programming for all ages, including early childhood age bracket, more playing fields, but as much as there is importance for having programmed space, also an unprogrammed space in all the parks is a highlight of our table. Connectivity, 2 parks for all modes of transportation, bikes, scooters, everything that might be coming in, and making sure that those ways are safe. Increased facilities and infrastructure at our parks, such as community rooms, lighting, so activities can kind of go into the night if they're not available during the day, and bathrooms. Beach protection was a huge one. That is a big asset that our city has and not everyone does, and to make sure that is being used and saved is extremely important. And then, as with everyone, kind of an overarching theme of safety in the infrastructure, potentially having a larger presence of park rangers at the park to kind of enhance that safety aspect. So all of our parks are inviting to everyone.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Right here is next in line, thank you.
All right, table 3 started our conversation off on the theme of safety and really wanting to kind of clarify what that word meant, that there was a sense that you should feel safe in parks, you should feel secure in parks, but we should not mean parks that are so safe that kids can't get a skinned knee because the playground is designed for, by lawyers. So there was definitely a thought that that word needs to be clarified. That led, that theme sort of reoccurred in our discussions about the educational opportunities of playgrounds and the park space, that definitely we should be maximizing those characteristics of parks. And then in terms of some of the other ideas that this table came up with in our conversation that needed to be included is we strongly support the idea of an off-leash dog beach. That was definitely one of the big ideas that we wanted to put on the table.
Dog beach?
Dog
Okay.
beach. Big second choice for that. Another idea that hadn't come up in other discussions was an intergenerational playground. Our representative from the school district is very excited about going out onto the playground. And not necessarily on one of the elementary schools, but one just for him. Let's see. And then when we ranked we did the ranking exercise, almost everybody put category A, the build new parkland either over the freeway or at the airport, in their top 5, and everybody put in played some card that indicated a need for new parks, whether it was new neighborhood parks, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So definitely going back to the comment, more is more. There was a feeling here that we needed more park space. And then there was also a discussion about really optimizing the streets and alleyways and other passages to build a kind of completely integrated network of green space that would sort of link all those places, so even as you're walking around the street, you could have that sense of being in the park. And then one last point is the civic auditorium should be included as kind of a recreational, educational opportunity as part of this conversation, and that was a pretty strong point from a few members of our table.
All right, thank you guys. All right, well done. Let's move on to this group.
Okay, table 2, very diverse and lively conversation over on table 2. So I'll go real quick through the categories. Number 1, enhance the play for all, play and use. We thought the play/use was really important, opportunity for all in all abilities and skills. So young, old, of all abilities. Rethink the streets and medians. Great opportunity on Main Street between Pico and Colorado. And then also being careful of placement of the parklets. And not all parklets work well in all locations. So a careful analysis of that. Item 3, real interesting, green infrastructure. We had quite a debate between artificial turf fields and natural turf fields. And kind of the pros and cons of both as far as green infrastructure. So maybe just a rethinking of maybe some of the new fields could be natural turf. Safety in the park was really big. One of the things we talked about is having the emergency kiosk in every park. So if someone was fearful of something, they could push a button and response would get there very quickly. We really like that one. Rotating pop-ups in parks to just change from one day to another, a new activity. Creating new parklands, start planning for the great park right away. We had kind of both sides of the overlay, and then a lot of folks talked about the 4th and 5th in Arizona on the city-owned land. And lastly, social interactions. We talked about adding cultural and historical aspects of the community in the parks. We talked a little bit about the picture of the small place in New York with the waterfall. Not a real big place, but where people interact. And then markers in the parks, just memorializing historic.
Very good. Thank you, guys. Let's give them all our thanks. And then finally, our last table. Go ahead.
Last and most awesome table 1. So we had a really great, diverse group of folks of ages and interests, residents and non-residents as well. So yes, 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 and yes to everything that's been said around safety and using the space that we have. Some of the key themes that came out was really focusing on space that is usable by all ages, so that there's intergenerational use. Grandparents and their kids, parents and their children can all do things, activities together. Safe connectivity, so not just having access to all the different parks and beaches, but really making sure those are safe for folks to use at all times of the day and night. And then really keeping the eye on the big picture. This is a 20-year plan, so let's not just go for the easy little projects here and there, but really make progress towards these big picture ideas like the airport park and 4th and Arizona, which was a recurring theme here. One of the areas of a little bit of heated debate was around the use of park space and having events regional versus residents. And so one of the things that we talked about was how do we incentivize residential use without excluding a regional welcoming of folks from outside of Santa Monica. And then a unique idea that I hadn't heard before, we talk a lot about capping the freeways, but Liz here had an idea of what if we capped the beach parking lots and created deck space where there could be cafe and seating so that people could enjoy the beach and the beach view in a more interactive way.
Okay, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. And let's thank all of the presenters and all of the tables for your work today. I want to acknowledge Lauren and Genevieve. They tried to keep a quick summary. That is just the beginning of our summary from today. I want to thank you all for coming out, spending your Saturday morning with us. Have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you all, and we'll see you in the next workshop. Have a great day. Thank you.